can be the thing that shifts and changes the situation for you. And so that's why we remember, as we're in community, we're constantly holding that highest vision for each other. I pray for you, you pray for me. We'll watch God change things. Good morning, Celebration Spiritual Center.
Good morning.
How's everybody doing?
Great.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So I am excited about this message series, or this message today. We've had a good summer. In June, we talked about living in joy and unconditional happiness, aware, awake, alive. In July and then last week, we finished up the wonderful world of wisdom, looking at taking animated stories. And we had messages based on Finding Nemo and Kung Fu Panda and Frozen and Turbo. And it was great, right? And so I just want to keep that energy going because I feel like we've talked about so much, and I want to just keep you encouraged. I want you to move forward in your dreams and your goals and your visions. And so that's where this topic came from as I thought about all of you and as we want to continue to encourage you. I have a question. How many people have dreams, have goals or desires, something that you're working on, something that you want to see manifest in your life or you want to create in your life? Anybody holler out anything? A job, a new relationship? What are you working on? What are the things that you that you want in your relationship? A new car, whatever it may be, right? Okay, so this is beautiful. And what I know is that we've been taught that we must focus on our goals, right? That if you focus on your goal, it can come into being. We've been taught that reaching our goals will bring us happiness, yes? You have a goal, right? You're not in a relationship, you want to be in a relationship, and I'll be happy when I'm in that relationship. You need a car, you don't have a car, I'll be happy when I have the car. I need a new job, I don't have that job right now, I'll be happy when I get that job. We've been taught that. And we've also been taught that reaching or realizing that goal, dream, or desire would be the main event of our life, right? And so when I hear the words main event, what I thought about was a boxing match, right? Because the boxing match is the main event. Now, what's interesting about the boxing match is there are always several fights before the main fight, the title bout, right? There's kind of these lower card scrubs, that are fighting. Maybe they're just getting in the game, and many times people don't really show up for those fights, right? You want to get there in time for the main fight. You want to get there in time to see cats like Mayweather, right? But it also reminded me at the same time, it's kind of like a concert. Many concerts have opening acts. And I've been to many concerts where, there's not too many people in the seats for the opening act. By the time the main act, the headliner that you've come to see, by the time they get there, the place is packed, everybody's on their feet. I mean, I remember one time, I was just telling this story recently where I went to see Prince for my birthday. This was the musicology tour, and there weren't a lot of people there, and by surprise, Morris Day and the Time showed up and opened up the show. But there was like all these empty seats, and like people weren't here, and I was like, oh my God, all these people are missing out on this amazing opportunity because people don't show up for the opening act, right? People get there in time for the main event. And so what I began to think about is this kind of how our life is, right? That we look at our lives as a series of main events. And so everything from one main event to the next main event is sort of like the openers that we may or may not show up for because it's kind of boring, right? It's not the pretty stuff. It's not the sexy stuff. And what I've even found is that many times we feel that we have to suffer in between each main event, that it's actually painful until you get to the main event. Because again, we have this idea that I'll be happy when I get the job. I'll be happy when I get the relationship. I'll be happy when I get the car. I'll be happy when I reach the goal or desire, which suggests that I'm not happy until I've reached the main event. And so I want to offer an idea, a way for us to think about the main events of our lives in a little bit different way. There's a quote by Abraham-Hicks. Y'all know I love Abraham. We're teaching the River class, which is based on Abraham. And this quote is powerful. It says that the main event has never been the manifestation. It has always been the way you feel in the moment. Abraham is suggesting that the main event, as I just talked about, the main event of getting the house, getting the car, getting the relationship, getting the job, having the career change, that's not actually the main event. That's what we think. The manifestation is the main event. When I've gotten to this thing, then life will be great. But Abraham is saying it's always been the way you feel in the moment. And so I would offer to each and every one of you today is that we are not here to live a life of main events, but actually life is the main event. Now, understanding that life is the main event, we have to also understand then what is really the purpose of life. The purpose of life is joy. That's really the only purpose that we have here, to be in joy at all times, in all ways. Freedom is the basis of our experience, Abraham teaches. And joy is what is our objective, right? Joy is where we are headed. And so whatever it is that you're seeking to do, if you want the relationship, if you want the car, if you want the career, whatever it is, that's beautiful. You can be, do, or have whatever you want. We talked about that last week and every week, right? But joy is the objective. And when you make that your goal, then that means that you no longer have to live a life from main event to main event to main event. And in between, things are painful. And in between, I suffer. And in between, I don't have what I want. And in between, life is not that great. And in between, I'm in pain. Because you understand that your purpose is joy. And joy can be experienced, felt, and lived now. So why does Abraham say that it's the way you feel in the moment, that that's the main event, not the manifestation, not the thing, not the person, not the experience? Well, what it brought up for me as I was sitting with this is the idea that, again, I said that life is the main event, but I also want you to understand that life is not a pain event. Why do I say that? Well, it reminded me of something. Many of you know I grew up in the Pentecostal church. And, the Pentecostal church is known for many things. Very charismatic, speaking in tongues, shouting, dancing, great music, all of that, right? The other thing is, I growing up in that community, growing up in that way, I'm proud and glad about it. I grew up around people of faith. People that sure enough knew how to get a prayer through. I heard testimony after testimony, week in and week out, of money showing up in the mail when somebody needed it right away, of healings. I've shared the story sometime last year of, seeing my uncle being healed from gout and all types of things, right? So I know what's possible. I know that there are people of faith. But what I also understand is that many times what we were taught is not taught that life was a main event, but taught that life was a pain event. Why do I say that? Well, because I remember that we were taught to fast and pray, right? We're taught that when there's something that you really desire, when you whatever's going on in your life, or things aren't working right, your relationship isn't working right, or you want a job, or you need more money, one of the things you can do to really show God that you're serious about what's going on is to turn your plate down, to fast for any number of days, right? And this is biblically based. You can look at Daniel, who fasted, and of course, Jesus fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. And while you're fasting, while you're turning your plate down, then you're also praying earnestly and seeking God and asking God and begging God for all of these things, right? And oddly enough, many of these things would come to pass. Many people, they fasted and prayed and would testify. I turned down my plate for 7 days and I prayed before the Lord for 7 days, and lo and behold, somebody gave me a car yesterday, right? And it's interesting because then that would suggest that, I have to withhold, right? I have to live life as a pain event. I can't eat in order to get the thing that I want, which seems absurd, right? I mean, I don't personally want to live a life that I have to suffer in order to get the things that I want. And what we believe and teach and know to be true here at CSC is that suffering is not necessary in order for you to have what you want. And so that's, again, why I say life is the main event. It's not a pain event. But as I look at it and I say, well, they achieved results. Why? How did they achieve results? Because what I understand is that what they were actually doing is utilizing the law of attraction perfectly. They took the time to focus on what it was that they wanted. We talk about this all the time, yes, right? Step one is to ask. And actually, after you ask, it is already given. The universe provides it. God already says yes. The universe already says yes. Yes and amen to everything that you desire, everything you want to be. It's already provided. And then our next step is to allow. to open up ourselves up and allow that thing to come forward, to focus on that above all else, to make how we feel and what we desire to be the most important thing in the world. That is what they did. But there was a belief attached to it that you can't eat in order to do that. There was a belief that was attached to it that says I have to withhold something from myself in order to do that. But that's a belief in this idea that life is the pain event. But I want you to understand that life is the main event, and it's really about how you feel. And if you understand that the purpose of life is joy, if you seek joy in every moment, if you seek joy in every step, if you seek joy as you are moving forward, moving towards, walking the path towards whatever your goal or desire is, it will come easily and effortlessly. But I don't know about you. I don't see or find joy in fasting. I don't hear joy in not eating. That's no joy to me. And what I want you to understand is that life can be the main event for you or it can be the pain event for you. It's a choice. It's a choice. And I hope that we begin to understand and choose for life to only be the main event and get rid of this idea of pain. So I was reminded, as we're talking about this idea of the main event, I was looking at the Kabbalion, and we've talked about the Kabbalion from time to time. It's an ancient text, a Hermetic text that comes out of ancient Egypt, and there are 7 principles in the Kabbalion that really teach us about how life works. Principles of polarity, the principle of correspondence, the principle of vibration, the principle of gender, the principle of cause and effect. All of these things we can find other places, and it harmonizes with if you're reading or studying the teachings of Abraham. It harmonizes if you're reading or studying A Course in Miracles. It harmonizes if you're reading or studying the Bible. But I was interested in the section that talks about vibration. The principle of vibration says that nothing rests, everything moves, and everything vibrates. It goes on and it says that every thought, emotion, or mental state has its corresponding rate and mode of vibration. And by an effort of the will of the person or all persons, these mental states may be reproduced just as a musical tone may be reproduced by causing an instrument to vibrate at a certain rate, just as color may be reproduced in the same way. Now, why is that interesting? Well, because I go back to this idea that the purpose of life is joy. And many times, as we're seeking a goal, we think, I don't have joy, I'm not in joy, that's why I'm seeking the goal. But when you begin to understand what joy is, and you begin to understand that joy is just a vibration. Happiness is a vibration, just like sadness, just like anger, just like frustration is a vibration. And then you begin to look at the principle of vibration, which says that just as a musical tone can be reproduced by causing an instrument to vibrate at a certain rate, or just as a color may be reproduced in the same way, so the vibration of joy can be reproduced at will at any time. So the vibration of happiness can be reproduced at will at any time. So the vibration of excitement can be reproduced at will at any time. And when you understand that life responds to your point of attraction, to your vibration, and you recognize that the thing that I want, I equate with joy, right? The relationship that I want, that spells joy to me. So if I choose to be and vibrate in joy now, life will respond and bring joyful experiences. It will bring joyful people. It will bring joyful relationships. If the idea is that you want a new career and you recognize that you will feel fulfilled in that new career or with that new company, you can begin right now by the principle of vibration to reproduce that feeling tone here and now, and life will say, oh, she wants more of this. Oh, he wants more of this. Fulfillment is who and what she is. I will give them more. And that's the power of our focus. That was the power underneath the fasting and praying. Again, I love the tradition that I came out of. I'm so grateful for my tradition. But I understand that there was something more powerful working underneath it. And I recognize that life is the main event, not the pain event. I recognize that I don't have to sacrifice in order to experience my good. I recognize that I don't have to go without in order to experience my good. And I was reminded of a quote by Byron Katie when we think about this idea of life being the main event. She says, "Welcome to the movie of who you think you are. Pass the popcorn." And I would edit that a little bit if I could do such a thing. She's brilliant. Welcome to the movie of how you feel you are. Pass the popcorn. Because again, what we're talking about is this feeling tone. We're talking about vibration. And you must understand that everything that we are experiencing in our life, good, bad, or indifferent, is really an indication of our feeling tone. It's an indication of our vibration. It's an indication of what we really believe to be true about life. And we've talked about this from the perspective that many times what we're wanting, we're actually talking about what we don't want. And so life is only responding back to that thing. So I'll go back to the example of a car. I want a new car because my current car is breaking down all the time. But I keep talking about how bad my car is, how it's always breaking down. And, I don't want a car that's going to have me stranded on the highway, or, I don't want to have to spend any more money on another battery. And I'm tired of buying tires. Somewhere in there is the desire of wanting a new car, right? But the universe is only hearing what we don't want. And so it's going to continue to give us the need to repair that car even more. It's going to continue to give us more experiences of breakdowns. It's going to continue to give us more experiences of frustration. And so when we think about the movie of how we feel we are, then we begin to see, I'm vibrating at this place that's opposite of joy. And what I want to feel is ease. In the case of my car, I just want ease. And I recognize that I can conjure up that feeling tone many times by just going to another time where I felt ease and focusing on that. Write about it. Abraham-Hicks would call this a rampage of appreciation. We talked about this last week on this past Monday in the class in the river. That you can take any feeling, any time that you felt ease, if you desire ease in your life, and just start to write about it and remember everything about it and recreate that story and recreate the feelings in your body. And the universe will say, oh, she's feeling ease here. Now, science even backs this up, because what's interesting, scientists used Olympic athletes. And part of their training, they had them visualize them running their race. And what was so interesting about that is, as they were visualizing just in their mind, they were hooked up to different machines to monitor their heart rate and other things. They found that the same muscles that would actually move if you were actually running, they were getting the impulses from those same muscles, even though they were sitting still and imagining it in their mind, right? This is how powerful our thoughts and our vibrations are. And so the universe on a non-physical level is also responding the same way. And so at any point, again, if you want ease, just begin to vibrate ease. And we understand by the principle of vibration that just as we can reproduce a color, we can reproduce the color blue over and over again, just as we can reproduce a musical tone by causing that instrument to vibrate, so we can reproduce any feeling state that we choose and let that become our point of attraction and create. Life is the main event, not the pain event. And so how do we make sure that life remains the main event? How do we make sure that we're not, as Abraham says, the main event is not the manifestation. But again, we've been taught and trained to think that way. So how do we get out of that? Well, it took me to something that I love in A Course in Miracles. Lesson 133 says, I will not value what is valueless. Powerful, powerful, powerful teaching, right? It goes back to exactly what we've just been talking about, because if we place value on the thing, well, what's interesting about that is, I don't know about you, but I've experienced it enough in my life to know it to be true, that I've set a goal and I got there, and then I was like, this is it, right? I set a goal to make 6 figures, I made it, and I didn't feel any different. I was like, oh, okay. I thought life was going to change. I thought the sky was going to part. I thought, I was going to be balling, right? Like nothing changed really, right? And I recognized that actually my thoughts hadn't changed, right? My point of attraction hadn't really changed, even though I met this event. And so that's why it's really about how we feel. And so in the lesson it says this. It says that all things are valuable or valueless, worthy or not of being sought at all, entirely desirable or not worth the slightest effort to obtain. Choosing is easy just because of this. Complexity is nothing but a screen of smoke which hides the very simple fact that no decision can be difficult. And so the choice that we're really making is to choose joy. But beautifully in this lesson, it gives us what I call the choice criteria. 4 things, 4 litmus tests, if you will, that we can apply when we're thinking about, are we living the main event or are we living the pain event? Are we thinking that the goal, the dream, the desire is the thing that will make us feel happy or joyful, or are we recognizing that the happiness and joy is here now and that's the main event? The first one is this. If you choose a thing that will not last forever, what you choose is valueless. Interesting. This is why we say choose joy. Everything else is fleeting. Everything else will not last forever. I want a car, wonderful. That car, however amazing it is now, is going to lose value and eventually be a piece of junk. No matter what, no matter how amazing it is, no matter how many trips it takes you on, all of those things, it serves its purpose, but eventually it will not last forever. This is why we must choose joy. This is why we must choose happiness. The second choice criteria. If you choose to take a thing away from someone else, you will have nothing left. Interesting. Now, this is also rooted in this idea, and we must understand that actually you can't take anything away from anyone. There's actually more than enough in the universe for everyone. Everyone. I mean, that's even literally true. We know that although there's hunger and although there's extreme poverty in the world, but let's just look at hunger, we actually know that there's enough food being produced for everybody to eat 7 times more than what they actually need. That's a fact, right? But still, there are people that are not eating. There are many people all over this earth that will not eat today, and they may not eat tomorrow as well. Right? Now, what that's rooted in is this underlying belief. So much of our systems, particularly our economic system, it's based on this idea of having and not having. Right? It's based on this idea that some people will succeed and other people will lose. It's based on this idea that there isn't enough for everybody, but then there's all of this evidence that says that there is enough. What I love about the universe, when we think from this universal cosmic point of view, I talk about flowers all the time because they just amaze me. There are more than enough flowers, right? There's not just one rose. Women love roses. I love to give roses to Yolanda. And I'm so grateful that I don't have to steal roses from somebody else so that some other brother can't give roses to the woman that he loves as well. I'm so grateful that I don't have to just, oh, well, I can only give her roses this time of year, this one time. If I want to give her roses every day, I can because there's more than enough. And I don't just have to give her red roses. I can give her white roses. I can give her pink roses. There are all kinds of exotic new colors now, orange roses and purple roses. I can give her all of these things because there's more than enough. And that's a beautiful example in nature of what is true of life itself. And it's really only up to us to accept it. Many times we're waiting for other people to believe it, like, oh, well, if everybody believes it's more than enough, then I can experience it too. No, experience it for yourself. Because you're living this life for yourself. You can't live it for anybody else. You can't believe it for anybody else. Yes, it's true. There's more than enough food on this planet for everybody. But if you believe it, jump in and experience it. But you cannot create that belief for anyone else. As much as we want to, you can't, right? We go on to the next choice criteria. Why is the choice you make of value to you? What attracts your mind to it? What purpose does it serve? And again, we go back to the purpose of joy. If joy is the objective, right? Why is the choice you make of value? Because joy feels good. It feels good to be happy. It feels good to be excited. It feels good to live in ease. It feels good to live in peace. That's why I make it a value. What attracts your mind to it? Because I'm naturally attracted to what feels good. I'm naturally attracted to the things that work. I don't know why my mind is going here now, but I'm thinking about Cat Williams. I love Cat Williams. And he tells this funny joke about parents beating their kids in the store. He says, why would you beat your kid in the store because they're going after Skittles? It's a toddler. Toddlers are supposed to like Skittles, right? It's just a natural thing. He's like, I don't understand why you would beat your child for being a child and being attracted to candy. That's what kids do, right? It's the same way. Don't question yourself why you're attracted to something that feels good. Don't beat yourself up in any way saying, well, why I shouldn't really want this, or I shouldn't really have this, or I don't know why I want to feel this way, because it feels good to feel good, and that's enough. Because joy is your objective. Joy is your objective. Thank you, Cat Williams, for that. And then the last choice criteria. If you feel any guilt about your choice, you have allowed the ego's goals to come between the real alternatives. And this takes us right back, right? Has anybody ever felt guilty around being happy? Oh, well, if I'm happy, but what about my brother? Oh, well, what about my sister? Oh, well, I'm happy, but my partner's not happy. Well, I'm happy, but everybody else on the job is complaining. They're always talking about what's wrong, and I actually love this company. I think it's great, and I think the money I'm making is great, and I'm fulfilled in what I'm doing, right? Guilt around joy. But what the Course is saying here so beautifully, it says that in that moment when we have felt guilt around the choice, we have simply allowed the ego's goals to come between the real alternatives. There's no need to feel guilty about joy. This even goes back to this idea of some having and some not having. You must begin to step into a place to know that abundance is here and available to everybody, right? It's like if we all needed water to drink, and there's this huge water cooler, unending. It always flows. It always flows. Every time you go to the spigot, it will give you water. But you cannot, even if you bodily take someone there and put a glass in their hand and pour it for them, you still can't make them drink it, right? But so often we feel so guilty thinking that, if everybody could experience joy, then I could really be in joy. If everybody could experience happiness, then I could really be happy. If everybody could experience ease, then I could really be at ease. But I'm here to tell you that the life that you live is only your own. You can't live anyone else's life. And the time that you spend trying to create joy in somebody else's life is taking joy out of your life. You won't have joy in your own life, externalizing and trying to bring joy or create joy in somebody else's life. Something that you can't do, right? We're powerful creators. We're amazing creators, right? But you actually cannot create joy for someone else, no matter how hard you try. So we get rid of guilt because we recognize that it's the ego's goals and it comes between the real alternatives. I will not value what is valueless. And so I want to leave you with just one thought. A quote from Jim Carrey, which I love, and anytime I'm talking about this kind of subject, his quote comes up. If you don't know, Jim Carrey, of course, is a famous actor, but he was also at one point one of the highest paid actors. And I believe it was Ace Ventura where he was paid the highest amount of money an actor had received at the time. And he says this. He says that, I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything they ever dreamed of so that they can see it's not the answer. Life is the main event, right? Now, we can take the wisdom of someone who has earned millions, who received a multi-million-dollar check at once. And he came to realize that although he wanted the millions, and he has a powerful story of how he visualized and used the law of attraction to create what he wanted, because he is a powerful creator, but he got to the so-called main event and recognized that it was never the main event. He recognized that actually it was the joy along the way. He recognized that he could create joy everywhere he goes, and so life is no longer main event to feeling kind of bad to main event to suffering and pain to main event to working real hard and struggling to main event to hustling and striving to main event. But actually, if life is the main event and if joy is our objective, then every moment can be the main event. If ease is our objective, every moment can be the main event. If peace, if bliss, if wholeness is our objective, then every moment can be the main event. I ask everybody to stand in this moment. As we will seal this deal with a prayer. Are you ready to live moment to moment main events? Yes. Are you ready to continue to make joy your objective and to move from that place? Recognizing that the main event is not the manifestation. We want the manifestations. Yes, we want the things that we want. And we recognize that that's just going to be an increase of the joy that we've already created. That's going to be an increase of the peace we've already created. That's going to be an increase of the ease that we have already created. Because, ladies and gentlemen, you are powerful creators. You can create anything. You can be anything. You can do anything that you want. Without hesitation, without reservation, without guilt. You don't have to be approved for it. It's not like credit. You're pre-approved. You're already approved. The fact that you're here means that you're worthy, as Pastor Yolanda says. That's absolutely true. So, Mother, Father, God, we are grateful and thankful in this moment to stand in the reality of our reality, to stand in this profound awareness that we are bigger than any circumstance, problem, or difficulty, to stand in this awareness that we can be, that we can do, that we can have anything we want. We recognize now that life is not a pain event, but life itself is the main event. And we recognize and remember that joy is our objective. Wherever in our lives that we had made struggling or striving or hustling the means by which we must attain things, we let it go now. We lower the resistance in our life and we simply allow it. We step into the river of well-being, into the stream of good, take our hands off of the controls, and let the universe guide us into good and only good. Because we recognize that you, Mother, Father, God, understand and see things from a vantage point that we just don't. We recognize our power. We recognize that it is up to us to say what we will be. It is up to us to say what we will have. It is up to us to say what we will do. But it is you that brings forth the how. And I'm so grateful to know that your how is just amazing. The way you bring it forth, it just boggles our imagination. The way you just pull all the pieces together and co-create this reality with us, we just say yes to it and we want more of it. I am grateful for these powerful creators here in the room because I know they have locked into this idea. They have locked into this idea of life being the main event. And so I am grateful to witness the main events that are their lives. I am grateful to witness the powerful creations that they shall manifest here on the earth as they continue to manifest joy and ease and peace and well-being. And what I know to be true, although we cannot make someone believe, although we cannot change the circumstances of someone's life, I know that by virtue of being light on the world, we are examples of what is possible. And as we are examples of what is possible, there will be one, there will be two, there will be dozens, there will be hundreds, there will be thousands that will see our light and say, because they were here, because they showed me what is possible, I now know what is possible for my life. Because they have entered my life and just simply stood as the powerful creators that they are, I now know that I am a powerful creator, and I now know that I can be, I can do, I can have whatever I want, and it's up to me. And that is how we change the world. We now release these words back into you, back into cause, knowing that you will bring it forth easily, effortlessly, elegantly, and beautifully. And so we walk through our weeks this week in confidence, and we walk through our weeks this week in expectation, looking for what it is that we desire to create. And so with a yes and an amen, we say, amen, amen. Ashe, Ashe. And so it is. Thank you, God. Yes, yes.